All right, this is Jeff, the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a webinar on Prism Auto Utilities. So I guess we just dive in here and get started, right? I have set up some things in this already. I have two screens running right now. Just as a reminder for those people who don't know, you can, in fact, if you're on a menu someplace, you can right-click and duplicate. And this duplicates your license, so you can actually be in two places at once if you need to be. Anyway, I was playing around with auto utilities and duplicated it earlier. And so to get to auto utilities, we would, on the main menu here, go down to the bottom right corner and click the little start button and go to store operations. And then we would see auto tools here in the upper right corner. and we've got auto min-max, auto purchasing, and auto transfer. So in all three of these modules, you have to set up a profile and then run the profile and see the results. So let's dive in, I guess, to auto min-max, which is can hurt people. So all of them have a calculate mode where the profile exists, and then they have a review mode where you review the results, right? So you click in here, and you can have these already built, or we could click new and build a new one. So I guess I will click new and we'll walk through it. I'm probably not going to save it, but we would name this for, whatever you want. So auto min-max could be for a vendor. It could be for a department. It could be for a department and a vendor. It could be for whatever you want to filter it to. In auto min-max, the error people make most of the time is they bite off more than they can chew. So you want to limit the scope of what you're trying to set min-max levels for to something you can evaluate right now. Like if you finish this analysis, you look at these, you got to be able to say, yeah, I agree with these, or no, I don't. And if there's 10,000 things that you have to review, you're not going to be able to get through that, right? So you want to take little bites with this stuff. So we would name it here, and then we would put a data range on it. So we hit the plus sign on the right here to say what date range can we, so you could do a specific date range, but we got to know what kind of date range we're going to use to calculate the rate of sale, right? So if we go out and we see that we're going to run 90 days, so I could say, give me 90 days starting 90 days ago. And let's say we sold, 45 units for a given item in the 90 days, then you could say that we're selling half an item a day, right? And so when we go to set up the calculation for what our min will be, it would use that rate of sale to calculate the min level, right? So, so we could go ahead and say okay to that. Down here, we would have to decide if you have multiple stores or a store, you have to turn on the store, or you have to turn on all stores, right? That kind of fixes the left side here. Now on the right, we've got to add a formula. So we're going to click add, and we would put this a name in here. And you would name this, if you were doing Wrangler like I have in the background, you would name it appropriately, right? In here, we can do days of supply or annualized. Annualized works well. It just annualizes the numbers. So if we did 90 days, 90 days is roughly a quarter of a year. So it's going to basically extrapolate or multiply that by 4, in other words. It's going to annualize those numbers when it goes into the formula. I generally find that harder for me to understand. I like to have the period of time, and I like to see the sales and know what I'm getting into. So if you have any questions, Catherine, I see you're out there. Feel free to throw them in the chat or just turn on your microphone. Either way, I'm totally good. So I'm going to leave it on days of supply. Now, if I leave it on greater than days of supply, what's going to happen is it's going to choose the greater of. So let's say I want to have, let's say with this given vendor, hypothetically, I order these every month. They take 2 weeks to get here. So when you think about min level, you want to think about order frequency, how often I order from this vendor, and lead time, how long it takes to arrive, right? So if I say basically 6 weeks, that's 42 days, right? So I could say 42 days. If I analyze this on the first and it doesn't qualify, the item is not eligible to be reordered, because it's not below the threshold. Then on the second, we sell a few and we now qualify. I'm going to have to wait till the first of the next month and then 2 more weeks. So I need to have roughly 42 days supply as a minimum amount for for me to get through that time and not run out of product, right? So now, what if at the other end of the spectrum, like in a shoe run, a size 6, as opposed to a 10.5, or there's lots of examples out there of colors or particular items that we have to represent that to show the line, but that particular item doesn't sell as well. So in that case, if I sold 1 in the 90 days, my rate of sale would be 1/90th of an item per day. And when you round that to 42 days, it's going to be less than 0.5. It's going to round to 0. You follow? So I'm going to say choose the greater of 1 or 42 day supply. That means I'm going to have 1. The minimum number I can have is 1, as opposed to leaving that on 0 and saying choose the lesser of, in which case the lesser of 0 and 0 is 0, right? So it would let it go to 0. Basically, if you leave this at 0, it's ignored, and this would round to 0 is what would happen. So I'm going to set that to greater of, and then I'm going to leave it on days of supply down here, and I'm going to say, okay, so that's the minimum I can have, 42 days. I could double that, or I could just take a higher number. Like if I can afford to keep a few more on the shelf than the minimum, then I would want to bump that up. So let's say we're going to go 70. And if it's a really bad item, I'm going to stay with 1. If I got a bad item that's just a bad item, then I'll have 1. And if it sells, great, I'll get another one. If not, I have my 1, right? Until I choose to discontinue that, right? So down here, then we have our item filter. And here we would go down and grab whatever filter we want. So it could be department, could be vendor, it could be both, right? So, and all this is editable in the grid formats if you don't see the field you're looking for. And of course, I'm not finding the vendor code. It's probably down here at the bottom, isn't it? In the V's, more than likely. Yeah, there we go, vendor code. So now I could choose to go get a vendor code, right? So I could go set this up to whatever vendors I wanted to do, right? So anyway, then we would click done, and we could have more. Like I got a vendor code here, but I could set up other fields, right? So I could have quite a few fields down here if I was going to continue to filter this in other ways, right? But I'm not. I'm not going to save this one, so I'm going to cancel this one, and I'm going to select the one I already have here. Now, normally we would just click run. When we click run, what happens? Now I clicked run earlier. It took about 5 minutes. I'm not going to take that much time on a webinar because this is kind of silly. But this is what it does. It pops up with a little yellow bar at the top that flashes. These little lights flash back and forth, and it runs, and it takes. Yeah, it doesn't take that long actually. It's so much faster than earlier versions of Retail Pro. But it does take a minute sometimes. A big vendor like Wrangler takes a minute. So it flashes for like 5 minutes, and then it then pops up with calculated min max has been completed, and we click OK. And then down at the bottom here, we would go to options, and we would go to min max review, and then we would click search. And probably actually what we would do, see, when I click search, I got everything. So I would probably want to go over here and filter it the same way that I filtered that job, right? So I'd want to see what's going on. Now I'm going to collapse the filter so we can see what's going on here. Right, so here's the current min max over here. And here is the min and this being suggested. Now these can be edited, right? I can change these. So if they were to bump up to a high number that I didn't agree with, or vice versa, if they were too low, and I'm the buyer, I'm the human being, I know what's going on, I could change these if I wanted to. So that's what I mean is you have to review this stuff. You have to go back in here and make sure you agree with all this stuff, right? So usually, typically, you could see min and your max and the new min and the new max, and you can kind of see if you've had a min and max on this item before, what it was and what it's going to. And it could be increasing or it could be decreasing depending on how well it's selling, right? If we liked this, then we would click down here where it says update, right? And we would choose, well, we're updating, right? So we would probably update all. In some cases, if you have a min and max, but now it's going to 0, we would want to choose all. If we just want to do the ones that got quantities, then that would be a quantities only, right? Most of the time it's all. If you needed to, you could have it update the company and it would add together all the stores, right? And give you the overall company min max. I don't find a lot of people use a company min max. I have a few clients that still use it. The advantage to using a company min max is if one store's out and another store has excess, if you're ordering at the store level, you're going to get an order from the vendor for that store. But if overall the company has enough in the company at the company min max level, you would not be buying that item, and you would need to look at your stock and stock balance. You'd have to transfer some stuff around to keep the stock balanced. And but that's cheaper than buying more, right? So anyway, we click update, it would go update, right? And then we would have a min max. So the process is to build the formulas, run it, review it. If it's not right, then go back and tweak the formula. If the numbers are too low or if they're too high, if they don't agree with what you know to be right, then go fix the formula. I mean, extend the days, make them higher days, make it lower days. I wouldn't get too tied up with days of supply. I'd be more concerned that you get the right numbers. If my experience is with the buyers know what they're doing, you got to trust their gut on this. You know what I mean? And you got to bump the numbers up or down to match the numbers that they already know work. All right, so then when you run it and the numbers look right, you would then go to do the update that would move things from the new min column to the actual min and max column for you. And then you'd have min max. So that would then bring you to the next auto utility, the next phase, right? And that would be auto purchasing. So in auto purchasing, we're going to use the min maxes that are out there in inventory. And if an item is below the min, it is going to get reordered. That's what's going to happen. So I'm going to click calculate purchasing, and I have a couple of different profiles. I'm going to grab this one. I ran this one earlier, and it was not too painful, but we're going to click edit first and take a look at it so we know what's going on. Yeah, we don't care. So so we named it. When you click new, you get to name it, right? And then the PO number, when this thing generates POs, we have the option to have it be a smart PO number. And I like this a lot. You may not send it to the vendor this way, but it's nice to know when you generate a PO, you got to review it and probably modify it. So when you review it and modify it, you can then change the PO number. So if you see a default one like this and it hasn't been changed, you know it hasn't been reviewed. That's very important because if I generate this on Monday and I don't get a chance to review it till Wednesday, there's no point in reviewing it. Just delete it and regenerate it. You've had 2 days of sales. That's going to totally change the order. So in here, what I've chosen to do is I've said, you know, I want the vendor code to be first, and then the date, and then the sequential system generated number. So you can't get rid of that. If you just said vendor and date and you did 2 orders for that vendor, you'd have the same PO number, and that's a solid no. Can't do that. So the unique identifier or the system generated number, it has to be in the plan somewhere. I usually like to put it last. If I have multiple stores, it would be smart of me to add the store number, right? So in this environment, I do have multiple stores. So I would probably want to say, bring the store number in, either, you know, either here, like vendor code, store number. I like that a lot. Or the other way around, store number, vendor, right? All right, so type of PO down here, marked for or drop ship, right? So If you're single stores, you're always drop ship. In other words, you wouldn't have any items marked for another store, right? Now, if you got a centralized warehouse and you want to bring this into the centralized warehouse, you would be marked for, and you'd be a multi-store PO, and it would be delivered to the warehouse. In this case, I just put in Big Hairy Dog for the warehouse, right? So that's what I've got going here. Is I've got a multi-store marked for PO. It's going to generate everything on one PO, and there's going to be little marks or allocations that show where those items are supposed to go. That can be generated to a purchase order. I mean, a transfer order. So we could have a pending purchase order and a pending transfer order simultaneously. Notes if we want them, right? Order date 0 days from today, ship date 0 days from today. That's unwise. It's probably more realistic to put a real number in there. Each vendor has a lead time that it takes to get product, right? The cancel date has not been set up, but yes, you could say right here, I'm going to go 60 days from today, from the order date, right? On the right-hand side, we've got locations, which are all checked off. Analysis. So analysis says what we're going to fill to. So are we going to fill to min level? Are we going to fill to max level? Are we going to go somewhere between min and max? Right. So that's halfway between min and max. Right. So, let's be mean. Let's do the math. Right. So, for those people watching, you can't participate, but I know you'll be listening at some point. All right, so let's say hypothetically, just to really hurt myself, that we have an item and that item has a min of 10, right? And it has a max of 20, and we are ordering to 50%, which the order quantity then would be halfway between 10 and 20 or 15, right? And we have it on hand of 11. So got to ask the question, right? How many do we get? All right, so if you said 4, you are wrong. So one of the first things I said, I think when we started this off, maybe I didn't, I don't know. You have to be below your min. So 11 is not below 10. Therefore, this item does not qualify to be reordered. Right, so if this here was 9, then if we're ordering to 15, we would get 6 because 9 is below 10. Or if this was 11, but in the background, we said order items above minimum, phrased very poorly. What that basically means is don't use the min as the threshold. So that means that whatever you're ordering to becomes the threshold, right? So if I'm ordering to 15 and I have 11, I'm below 15, I get 4, right? So, but usually we don't check that because it tends to order a lot of onesies, right? Like my min is 15, or my level I'm ordering to is 15, but I have 14, so it orders 1. I get dozens and dozens of these onesies. It's a lot of payroll. It's a lot of work, right? So typically we want to have a threshold that is the right threshold. If we have to error, we want to add error on the side of a little more than a little less. I don't want to run out. It's okay if I have a 1 or 2 left when the new shipment comes in, if you see what I mean. So that just means adjusting the mins and maxes up or down to get the right level as sales patterns change and items change and items go out of fashion, All right, so enforce minimum order quantities. This is totally different. I should mention it in passing, but let's say that you've got a min of 10 and a max of 20, but the vendor won't ship you anything less than one inner pack. Let's say the inner pack has 12 in it. then the minimum order quantity is 12. Once you're above 12, you can order 24 or 36 or 48. They don't care, but they won't ship below 12. So then if you needed 10, you would have to round it up to 12. That's what that would basically mean. That's a setting in the inventory screen that says the minimum order quantity for a given item. And they're rare, actually. I don't see very many. I see like 2 maybe on a given installation items that have a minimum order quantity. More common is a case quantity and a case pack, which we also have that setting, which this is not about that. But if you have a case quantity set and turned on and restricted, it will adjust to the case quantity in auto POs. So the last screen here is committed. This has you look at whether you have customer orders on it, whether you have transfer orders going in or out, whether you have purchase orders coming in, what date range. Now, the most important thing here is the date range down here at the bottom, right? So when you think about POs, if I need 6 to get to my 15 pieces, but I already have a PO coming in that's got another 10, I don't need to order 6 more, right? Because 10 is greater than 6. I will be at my ideal quantity. I just got to wait for that PO to arrive, unless that PO is a pre-season order and it's not coming in for 10 months. Then I need a short-term fill-in. You follow? So that's what this does. What we've done here, what I've done here is I set it to question mark days ago, right? Or X days starting Y days ago down here. And I said, give me a 60-day duration starting 30 days ago. That's a month forward and a month backward. So if it's 2 weeks late, I'm still considering it okay, right? If it's on order 2 weeks from now, I'm considering it okay. I'm saying if it's up to 30 days in the future and 30 days in the past, do not double up the order. That's what that says, right? Which I think is pretty safe. Some people like to go a little farther in the future. So you could say 90, start at 30, right? If you wanted to go out 2 months. But I don't know, if you're getting it 60 days from today, that's probably not going to help you in the short term, if you know what I mean. So now up here, of course, if I have a customer special order on say 4 of these, and I need 6 to get to my number, those 6 are going to come in, 4 are going to go right off the top. So I need to evaluate that there are 4 that are needed for customers, and I need 6 more for my inventory. So I need 10 total, right? And that would be true too of these if I turn these on. I don't know. With transfer orders, generally when I run transfer orders, and we'll do those next, but they're kind of one and done for me. Like if we run a transfer order and we pick the items and we're missing one of the items and we don't have it, we can't fill it, I'm just going to inactivate the TO. And if I don't, I'm never going to go back to it. So I'm not going to evaluate it. I'm not going to look to see if there's one pending on a transfer order TO that's like 6 months old. So I don't usually turn those on because we're moving a little bit too fast in that area. I mean, there's other ways to manage that, but that's not the way I see it. In real life, I see people, they burn the TO, they pull the items, they delete it, they move on, right? They get what they get. So, in transit's good. If you track in transit, not everybody does. But if you do track it and it's in transit, then yeah, don't double up with the order, right? Exclude items past cancel date, fair. You should be putting cancel dates on everything, right? I don't use the PO filter. There is a PO filter, but I generally don't use the PO filter. I don't know how you'd filter it other than the date ranges, right? That we've already got. But you could. I have seen, the only time I've ever seen this used actually is for the associate or buyer. Like if you're limiting this to only your POs that you wrote, right? Then we'd have to make sure we got the created by our associate field, and then we'd have to select that and put our name in, right? And then it would only look at your POs, right? All right, so I'm going to cancel this, and then what we would do is we'd click run. I ran this earlier and it was pretty fast, so we're going to say yes and let it run, and it's already done. See, so the PO is pretty fast. Now this is really fast because there aren't that many items in that vendor, right? Basically. So we're gonna go. I think I get 3. So I'm gonna go options, purchasing, review. So we run our configuration, our little profile, then we go review it, and you see I got 3 items. That's all I got that qualified, right? Fair enough. So I am going to say, well, I could, if I chose to, unmark these. So, in real life, we could get 300 here, right? Or more. If I'm doing more than one vendor, if this profile or this configuration had 5 vendors in it, I would get 5 POs. So when you have multiple vendors in here or many items, sometimes it's easier to evaluate on the PO screen directly than it is to evaluate it in a long list here. Because I only have 1 page. I could have 25 pages down here. I could be flipping through pages, unmarking things. So generally, with a few exceptions, I have a few clients who really like this process. And if you're ordering for 1 vendor at a time, it's not bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. But generally, if you're doing bigger orders and or multiple vendors, you're just gonna want to say generate mark down here at the bottom, and then and say okay, and it'll go generate the orders, tell you it's complete. Pop out of there, go to purchasing, purchase order lookup, and they should be on top here as soon as it gets done doing its little spinny dance, right? So I said put the vendor code in there, right, and then put the store number and the date or whatever we got going. Oh, I didn't save that, right? So it's just vendor number and date and sequential number, right? Which makes sense. So you see this one right here is that's the vendor code, right? The PM belt, and then 0129, that's January 29th, and then number 9. This is the 9th PO I've generated in this. Right here's what I did before, this number 8, right? So so you generate the thing, you click OK on it, you open it up, and then you could now I could go add items to this. I could click edit down here, and I could go browse in inventory, grab some items. I could change the allocation or how these things are being sent out from once they're received. You know what I mean? And of course, I could delete these items too. So, and I think generally speaking, it is easier to evaluate in this form here because this is how you write a PO. And everybody out there that's buyer, they already know how to write a PO. So just generate it, go find everything that I'm low on that I said I want to be ordered because you set them in max up, so and you edit it. So boom, go find all those items, show me them. I'll decide whether we actually order them or not because I'm the buyer and you're just the computer, which is true. So now a couple of things I want to touch on real quick before we go to auto transfers. One is that right here, once I'm done editing this, I could generate a transfer order. So what that means is, let's close that for a second. Let's go show allocation. And welcome, Kate. Right, so then you see at the bottom, you can have an allocation, and I could change the allocation. I could actually say where I want these to go, right? So now the allocation in this case was generated by the auto PO process itself directly, but you could absolutely go and edit this around and change it up if you wanted to. I'm not sure why it's not letting me really play with this right now. Of course, you're on a webinar. That's when you always bump into problems. But oh, I know why. Didn't click edit. That's why. Kind of picky that way. Yeah, there we go. See, now I could change this. If I change my mind here, I could say, no, I still want 9. I'm going to order 9, but I'm going to put 4 of them in this store, right? Or I could have none staying at the warehouse, and I could have all 9 going out to the field, right? All right, so and then once you had that nailed down, then you would generate the transfer order by the Mark IV values. And then what we'll do is we'll take this PO, we'll start the receiving process really briefly so you can see how that whole relationship works, right? So if we're here on a new receiving voucher and we reference that PO, right, that one there, and select. Now, if I go to voucher details comments, you see that it's already put the TO number into the comment field. So once I finish this voucher, if I look in the comment field or I print this, it's going to show me that there is a pending transfer order, right? That's what they do. They quickly put that in the comment field so that you know. Then so here we would just do a receiving, and that's not what the webinar is about. But it would just be a normal receiving, PO items all do receive the items. And once they were on hand, then I could go to the transfer order and either print it out or generate slips. Again, I'm always worried about the warehouse guys picking the wrong item. So generally I would print it out and then I would have them pick it and scan what they pick. You know what I mean? Because it's just smarter. All right, so before I hop into transfer orders, let's hop into inventory. And it's going to take a second. This VM is a little slow, but the point is that every item out there has a min and a max, right? So we could go out here, go to form view. We could edit the min, we could edit the max. If an item is too aggressive, we can pull it back. If an item is not aggressive enough, we can bump it up. The edits can be done at the item level or at the style level, depending on what kind of merchandise you have, right? So real quickly, I'll establish that right here on a given item, I could go to item details and I could go to purchasing. And here we see, especially if I go to edit mode, this is the min, this is the max, right? So I could say, 10 of these and 20 of these if I wanted to continue the same scenario, right? Up here is the minimum order quantity, right? So I could say they won't ship you unless you get at least 12. But once you get 12, then they will come in cases of 6, say. And then my threshold is if it's below 10, right, order up to 20. Now, come on. All right, thank you. If we go to style details, and I can now see the style, right? I can, if I want to, in edit mode, pull the drop-down menu at the top, and I can say store mins, and I could go edit all the mins for this item, all sizes, all colors, right? And then I could switch stores and do it again. And I could also do the maxes here, right? So we can do mins or maxes. Now it's a lot of work editing them in this way. I'm not going to lie. That's a fair amount of work, right? So it's better to generate the auto min max based on the sales patterns and then tweak the ones that as business changes and you need to change it or tweak it, just go in and tweak it, right? At the style level or the item level. All right. Yeah, I don't think you can edit the other quantities we looked at. There is no case quantity in here, and there's no minimum order quantity in here. There are things like UPCs. You could scan all the UPCs in here. Really handy. Cancel. All right, so back to store quantity, store operations, excuse me, auto tools, auto transfer. So again, auto transfer, we would go to calculate. I have a Monday profile, but it could be anything. We could click new here. Like we could name the profile right here, right? We could say who the associate is, what type of document you want to generate, whether it's a transfer order or held transfer slips. Some people like held transfer slips. They're actually pretty slick. Transfer order is one document with allocations, where transfer slips are all separate per store, right? Now, I did write a report for one of my clients that they generate the held transfer slip, they print them, they leave them there. They then go out and scan the items into a new transfer, and then I created a report that could read the held slips and compare them to the actual slips, right? To show you where you screwed up, which I could do for anybody if we were to need it. So anyway, so I guess we could say held slip. I've never seen anybody use actual transfer slips. In all cases, when we generate something, whether it's an order or a held slip, we want to be able to review it and pick it. And we might find that the quantities in our inventory control are not 100% on point, shall we say, and that we don't have 42 of those on the shelf. We only have 37, and therefore we can't actually transfer as much as we thought we could, right? So typically we print the order or the held slip out, we go pull the product, and then we make corrections when we unhold it or generate the actual transfer, right? Source is the warehouse, right, in this case. I don't really need the date changed, and I don't have a note. All stores, distribution, again, so this is the committed function. Do we care about, again, allow transfers when at above min? So no, I think you have to be below the min, right? That way you're going to get like 6 or 5, or you're going to get a few. Are we filling to max? Are we filling to middle, somewhere percentage between, or min? So max is fine. Item filters. You can use an item filter, but generally in auto transfer, we don't. Now, that being said, I've had clients use a filter. I had a client who had 2 distinct businesses. It was tennis shoes and t-shirts, basically. And they like to pull the tennis shoes on cart, like with shelves, and they like to pull the t-shirts in a big fabric, like basket barrel thing that rolled around, right? So it didn't make sense to pull them together. So they filtered one pass for soft goods and one pass for the tennis shoes, right? So you can do it, absolutely. And then again, committed from the source and committed on the destination, right? Check off what's appropriate. Again, if you take orders in the store, and well, both ways. If you take orders, if you get an order in the warehouse, like a web order comes in, and you want to not pull that product out to the stores because you're just going to have to pull it back, then you would have it evaluate sales orders in the warehouse, and the same thing on the other side. If we took a special order on an item, we got it in stock at the warehouse, and I needed 5 in the store. Well, I need 1 more for the order. I need 6, right? So you check off what's appropriate based on how you order. Like in this case, the destination. If I'm ordering to the warehouse, I'm never going to have a PO on the store. They're all going to go to the warehouse. But I have a lot of clients who write separate POs for each store. So each person's going to be different on that one, right? I'm going to cancel this. Now, this here, I also ran this earlier, and you just click run, it flashes a bit, it says it's done. Then you go out to transfer review, and out here you have to actually load the profile, and then it shows you what it wants to transfer, right? So the transfer quantity is on the far right. You can see the on hand is 0, right? So here we would say generate marked if we wanted to just generate these. So I'm going to go ahead and say generate and say okay. Okay, so now let's go out to store operations, transfers, pending transfers, right, and see if there's anything in here. Yep. So these look like they're a little dated. I'm not sure. Did it go back? Oh, I know. I know why. Yeah, all right, fair enough. So let's check this out real quick. Transfer order lookup. I didn't save that last profile, right? So it generated a transfer order, not a, right? So this one that's January 29th, 2026 right here, right? This order here is what it generated. Right, you can see there's the 4 and the 5 that I edited earlier, right? And I don't know what doc designs I have in this virtual environment here. I doubt that's anything fun. We might look at it. Right, so here you can see, you should be able to see. Oh, right, yeah. So on the far left, you see that weird fraction is not a fraction, by the way. So this is company one, store three, company one, store two, right? So it's showing you, but just this is not easy to pick from. I'm going to say this is a bit rough. And we could play with that doc design, and we might be able to come up with something better. Um, if it generated held transfer slips, right, then we would go to pending. Now these are old, obviously, but right. So then you could go out here and this, I could unhold it, but I could also just print it, right? And I think that we have more control over the print job out here because it's already separated out by store. So okay, so and of course you have to clean up your mess. So when you're done with the POs, you'd have to periodically clean those up, inactivate them. Same with transfer orders, right? If that makes sense. So that's pretty much auto utilities, start to finish. Is there any questions? Oh, yeah, there's one right there. Can you show how you got to that auto utilities menu again? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Please, yes. So obviously, I think we've done it a few times here, but if you're at the main menu, you go to Retail Pro and you go to Store Operations, and then Auto Tools in the upper right corner gets you to what we would call Auto Utilities. What used to be called Auto Utilities, apparently it's called Auto Tools now, right? And thanks for that, by the way. Appreciate any and all questions. Um, all right. So any questions about auto utilities, about anything we've done? I know Kate, you came in late. Katie, I guess. I didn't see the eye. Sorry. Um, of course, this is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the website, on our probably YouTube channel, more than likely. All right. So, all right. Perfect. The three little dots of typing. Yes, good point, Catherine. As long as inventory is accurate. Yes, it is very exciting as long as inventory is accurate. But, inventory control is it's a challenge for everyone. I have a lot of clients that audit themselves constantly, and they're always finding little mistakes. Even when they're on top of it all the time, they're finding little mistakes, right? When I was in retail, we used to have loss prevention come in and do big presentations, but they weren't wrong. They would say that 50, 60, 70% of the mistakes or inventory control problems are in fact mistakes on our part, right? It's not theft. And that theft is going to happen and there's not any really thing we can do about it. I mean, I was a store manager at a Marshalls and we had little earring spinners and we had like 6 of them and they each had 8 little spinners on each one of them. There's no way, unless you were standing right there watching people, that you're going to lose earrings. They're tiny. They go in pockets, right? So I think that the buyers planned on losing a percentage of those, right? And they price them accordingly. So you're going to have some theft. It's always going to be there, but it's not the primary. It's not the thing you can fix. It's very difficult to fix theft. It's very easy to fix mistakes, like receiving mistakes, transfer mistakes, point of sale mistakes, like, hey, I don't have a price tag. Well, that one's $29. So let's just sell that one. Okay, now you just created an overage and a shortage in inventory, right? The overage, so to speak, when you go negative, is easy to spot. You can't have a negative number, so you bring it back up to 0. you then have to make sure you book those dollars against future shrink, because if there's a negative going up to zero, there's absolutely a positive that needs to come down to zero. We just don't know which one, right? So, you can do cycle inventories. That's very good. It's a lot of work, but it's very good for the culture of the employees and the operation. When people are when they're counting stuff every week or every other week, they're much more attentive to keeping the quantities accurate, because it's just going to come back to haunt them in 2 more weeks, right? So they don't seem to be as casual with inventory control. If you create a good culture of inventory control, but man, changing culture is way harder than changing a few settings in your software. So yeah, it is very, very cool. And if you find that you're not getting a product and you're saying why don't I get this, and you go look at the on hand and you see the on hand is wrong, then you just fix it, and you get that item starts ordering, right? All right. Any other questions? Anything else I can answer for you today? All right. Well, if not, I'm going to say thank you for joining. I appreciate you taking time out of your day, and always good talking with you guys. And this will be available probably to view. I don't know. They download it. They post it up later today, probably. So pretty quickly. By tomorrow, it should be available. If not today. And thank you very much, ladies. You guys have a great rest of your day. All right. See ya. Bye.